Good evening, Ms. Burrell.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mrs. White.
Good evening. No, good afternoon.
I stand corrected.
Welcome to the Antelope Valley Union High School District Board of Trustee meeting, January 20th, 2021. Good afternoon. Please be advised that the Board of Trustees are participating in this regular board meeting, January 20th, 2021 with teleconferencing. The meeting is being recorded and all actions will be taken by a roll call vote. I would like to ask board members to respond to the following question as I call your name. Are you able to hear our proceedings on your end? Mr. Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Perrell?
Yes.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Ms. Wynn?
Yes.
And Ms. McGrady, yes. I would ask you to stand and place your right hand over your heart for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees adjourn to the PINCO meeting. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And that was Ms. Perrell. Thank you. A second?
Second.
I don't know who it was. Dr. Ruffin, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush? Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. We can just barely hear you. Ms. Wynn?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady? Aye. So we do not have any public comments from the floor on PINCO items. So it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve and authorize the purchases outlined on the attached schedule. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Ms. Perrell, thank you. Second?
I second Danita.
Danita, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, yes?
Yes. I was asking about 45, purchase order number 45. Did we ever, I think that was for Mr. Neal. Did we ever get any other contenders in the area for legal ads to be in the paper for?
That's probably for Mr. Hawkins.
Mr. Hawkins?
As Mr. Hawkins is getting on, I can start it. I believe that we are required by law to advertise in a local circulating newspaper. Is that correct, Mr. Hawkins?
Yes, it is. We're required by law to advertise in a general circulation newspaper in our area.
Do we have any other general circulating newspapers in our area?
I so far have not been able to locate any.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
No.
No. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Wynn?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady? Aye. That passes 4-1 with a student board member voting yes. We will now reconvene our regular meeting and I will turn it over to Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. McGrady. Ladies and gentlemen of the board and cabinet, Palmdale High School.
Good evening, board members and cabinet. I am Jocelyn Hyman, Palmdale High School's FFA president. In these trying times of distance learning, the PHS Ag Department has come up with some innovative ways to connect with our students and their families. The following is a short list of our efforts. In June, the department held a grab and grow event, which hundreds of vegetables and petunia plants, which were started by students before the lockdown, were distributed during grab and go lunch along with soil and containers for families to take home and grow to provide food for the table or to brighten up the yard.
Look at this, guys! Do you see that monster pumpkin?
Over the summer, the aging vineyard was removed and a pumpkin patch was planted in its place. In excess, 300 pumpkins were produced. Over 100 were distributed to students, with half going to kids registered in the pre-vocation and autism programs at PHS, KHS, and LHS, and the other half going to PHS FFA members for use in a virtual pumpkin decorating contest at their October meeting. Many more were sold with funds going into the PHS FFA account. The pumpkin patch also became haunted as part of a virtual Halloween party for students. We're bringing agriculture virtually to life for both general and special ed students with a program we call Farmer Fridays. Farmer John and Farmer Sarah have taken various field trips which are shown live and are recorded to get our students out of their homes and into the world of agriculture.
Farmer John, where are we?
We're at Mr. and Mrs. Weisenberger's ranch.
The top 3 adventures, according to students, were a visit to Mr. and Mrs. Weisenberger's Llama Ranch, a live beekeeping with Beeman Steve and his colonies, and of course, the Halloween party. We also visited the school ag departments, my horse project, and even taught Farmer Sarah to safely operate a tractor.
Farmer Sarah and Parkdale High School going for a tractor ride!
Oh, Sarah.
Learn all about reptiles and arachnoids from the prehistoric reptile zoo in Orange County.
He's such a good boy.
Learn from an educator about the adverse effects plastics are having on the environment. They even got to understand about the threat of invasive species on a trip to the Royal Botanical Gardens in Ontario, Canada. That one was a long bus ride. PHS agriculture students were provided with airplane and cyclamen plants to take home and raise as a supervised agriculture project that they will keep records of in their AET accounts. Thank you for your time.
Look at what she ate. Farmer John's hat. Oh, no.
Thank you for this opportunity. Another school has presented and it was amazing. Today we met as an ICC class. It was good to hear what all the different schools are integrating at their school, distance learning wise, to continue to motivate these students. We have optimistic, creative kids in this district and they are continuing to hang in there. So thank you, Ms. McGrady.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and thank you to our students at Palmdale High School for sharing with us. We move forward to 4B. That would be the governance budget update. Mr. Hawkins?
Good evening. I'm bringing you just an update. Governor Newsom proposed the budget for the 21-22 school year just a week ago. And so this is a rough update. Next slide, please. So it's kind of like where we are now. If you remember, given where we were some 9 months ago, the state, Governor Newsom, proposed significant cuts, significant rollbacks based on their estimate for our current year for revenues. Fortunately for California, our economy has recovered from the pandemic considerably faster than originally budgeted or anticipated, and the state revenues are considerably higher than what they originally forecast them. So with additional revenue coming in, the governor's budget proposal forecasts which is truly dramatic, a restoration of funding for the current year COLA that we did not get, and then providing some COLA growth in some additional programs and in the reserves for a rainy day. Next slide, please. One thing that we are still going to have this year is the deferrals. And if you remember, the governor enacted deferrals that actually start in February. and they will start paying us less than what our normal monthly apportionment is. And that, by way of looking at the trans that we approved last month, we're looking at about a $54 million difference in what we should receive and what we will. So we will be doing the trans. But the good news is that the governor has put in next year's budget to pay off the deferrals from this year. They were scheduled to start paying them down in July through November. And the good thing is that the governor has actually put money against that in the budget, meaning that they intend to pay for it. So just make sure, though, that this does not change our current deferral schedule. So we still will be needing a trans, and we're looking at borrowing right around $48 million for that trans starting next month. Next slide, please. Here, you can see that Governor Newsom is increasing the COLA. So we should have received a COLA of about 2.3% in our current year. And the estimate for the COLA next year, 21-22, is about 1.5%. So in their budget for next year, they added the two together. What this budget process does not do, and if you remember, we were held harmless for our ADA this year. That means we got the same amount of ADA per number of students this year that we had last year. Now, the good news is we have been averaging more students enrolled this year, so we hope to be able to show an increase in ADA next school year. But the state is not collecting attendance data this year. So next year, we'll be able to use the higher number of either the new ADA, that if we do get more students showing up, or we'll still get our current number. So it allows a plateau for many districts in California that are actually seeing declining enrollment. With this COLA increase, understand and do please realize that we still had additional costs this year, certainly in our driven costs, our retirement costs, and our medical, our health benefit costs. So we still had those cost increases without a COLA. So we'll have really 2 years worth to associate against that 3.8% COLA that we will get next year. Next slide, please. In reviewing the Federal CARES Act, there was a $900 billion supplemental appropriation that was signed into law on December 27th. That federal stimulus package provides about almost $55 billion for elementary and secondary schools. Now, depending on how the state is going to split up the funding they receive, we could be entitled to an additional $26,700,000. That is based on our current Title I allocations, and that's an estimate that school services put together for us, for all the school districts in California. Further, if you've been reading or watching the news, you'll see that the new president, as of today, President Biden, has another stimulus in the works that could add even more school funding to address the student learning loss and COVID mitigation. We haven't, until that actually gets put on paper, we haven't seen what that could be. Next slide, please. One of the things we look at is the major source of revenue for the state of California, and they call it the big three. It's personal income tax, sales tax, and then taxes on corporations. And what's really interesting to see here is that from 1920, and remember last fiscal year was the fourth quarter was really lost because we went into quarantine or lockdown. We still had almost $99 billion in personal income tax for the 1920 fiscal year. They are estimating for the current year of about 102 billion. So there's a increase there. What's even more surprising is the estimate they have for 21-22 next fiscal year. And this is really the basis for the improvement of funding for the state of California, which then trickles down and improves the funding for school districts. And they're looking at $107 billion. Next slide, please. With that, understanding that personal income tax makes up the vast majority of the revenue for the state, we have several concerns. And first is that California, we are the 5th largest economy in the world, and we have become mostly a service-oriented marketplace, where we are very dependent upon the tax revenue generated from, and specifically from the wealth creation of the technology and or the stock market. As those folks sell their stock, they then incur significant tax, which is what is driving the additional tax revenue. Additionally, we see that we've had real estate prices have really skyrocketed across the state. So really throughout this pandemic, we've seen California seen, in my opinion, a greater divide between our economic classes, because we still have an awful lot of folks that are unemployed due to the business closures, and we still have an equally large number of households that are renting, who are not taking advantage, but are not able to pay their rent. And there's a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures right now. At some point, it would become very difficult for folks to pay that back, and we really could see a rise in foreclosures, which would really change our real estate market. And then thirdly, all 3 major stock market averages are at their all-time highs. So with that, when we look at the next 2 to 3 years, and on the business side of our school district, we always have to look out the next 2 and 3 years. The economists are all over the board. It's like fortune tellers almost. Some are predicting that the stock market will increase. Others are saying it's a bubble. Right now, I couldn't even give you a best guess as to where we'll be a year from now, economically speaking, in the state of California. Next slide, please. Additional concerns are when we look at the federal debt. Our public debt as a percentage of GDP increased from 79% in 2019 to 98% in 2020. It's a direct result of the federal government collecting less in tax revenue and paying out more for a lot of this CARES or the COVID relief nationally. Tax cuts and the tax bracket inflation of the tax cuts from a few years ago, they'll end in 2026. And the new administration may be looking at rolling back some of those previous tax cuts. So we could see an increase in the personal income tax and certainly the business and business operational taxes. Specifically in California, we had a big unemployment drop in March, as we would understand when we went into the initial quarantine. We had a recovery going through September, but even when we look at that, it barely restored us back to 2015 employment numbers. The state had its second largest increase in unemployment claims in December of 2020. Additional stresses on the California economy are that while we have been consumed by this pandemic, we can't forget all of the historic fires that have taken place, and we've even seen a few fires in the last couple of weeks. Commercial real estate vacancies have risen due to a lot of people working from home, and quite honestly, they may not come back. So we have debt issues, and we have unemployment issues, and we have a whole new change in the economy the way we do business may make some big changes as well. Excuse me, next slide, please. At least as it relates to the state budget, kind of what happens now. The Governor Newsom, he asked the legislature to move real quick, meaning last week, this week, and possibly next week, on reopening of schools legislation. The opening depends on the current conditions in each county. LA County, we are in severe conditions and it may take several months or longer. There is additional state funding available to those districts who are able to reopen. Now begins the work with the state to go through the proposed budget with the goal of approving a final budget, but it's a many-layered process. We'll monitor this as we go through ultimately with the passing of a balanced budget in June. Next slide. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great presentation, Mr. Hawkins. This is Dr. Ruffin, and thank you for getting us the slides in a timely manner. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. We appreciate it. Hearing no other questions or comments, we'll move on. Next is we'll hear from ABTA, Mr. Shy, Dan Shy. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, excuse me. I skipped several. Okay, we are actually at C, the quarterly Williams Uniform Complaint Procedures Property Report Summary in October. Sorry, Mr. Shy, we'll come back to you. October 2020 to December 2020, Ms. Williams.
Good evening. There were no complaints received during this time period.
Thank you. On D, Antelope Valley Schools Transportation Reports Update, Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, thank you. We have no new reports, nothing new to report currently.
Thank you. And now we are from ABTA, Mr. Shy.
Ms. McGrady, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, board and cabinet. First, welcome back, Danita. I think I speak for everyone that we couldn't be happier to have you back. Ms. McGrady, also congratulations on the victory. I'm happy we could help you retain your seat on this board. I'm encouraged by the immediate actions this board took in the last meeting to begin to obliterate the actions of the three stooges that have held our district hostage for over 2 years. I am confident that will continue as you work to restore our credibility within the Antelope Valley. To quote former President Ford, our long national nightmare is over. I look forward to working with a board that cares about the students we serve and the employees who provide that service. As to you, Ms. Perrell, I can't for the life of me understand why you still waste your time taking up space on a board where you offer nothing. You vote yes sometimes or no sometimes, and sometimes you even abstain. But never do you offer any thoughts or reasoning behind your votes. It is painfully obvious to anyone that has been at a board meeting or seen or heard a board meeting the past 2 years that intellectually you are way out of your league. You are an elected official that in over 2 years has yet to utter a coherent sentence or put forth an intelligent thought. Why are you still here? You have been given numerous opportunities to step up and do what was right, but instead you chose to remain silent. You were elected to speak for the community, yet you remain silent. You have failed our students and the community by doing so. I will tell you in no uncertain terms, the campaign to unseat you starts now. This is not going to be a fun 2 years for you. Ms. Ruffin, this will more than likely be the last time I address you directly. I can think of no better fate for a narcissist like you than to have to serve the remainder of your term on this board where you don't matter. Your opinion means nothing. You have zero influence over the direction of this school district. You were elected to serve the students of this district, yet instead you have willfully been a roadblock to the business of this district due to your personal petty vendettas. You have actively acted against the interests of our students with such actions as refusing to approve our representation in CIF, disparaging our coaches by calling them pimps. The list can go on and on. You can continue to rant and rave and, frankly, entertain us with your outlandish accusations and conspiracy theories. Actually, it gives us all a good laugh, but no one takes you seriously because you lack credibility. And to quote from a comment from the chat box of the last meeting, and I quote, "You will never be embraced, not because you are Black, but because you are disrespectful, uninformed, vindictive, unprepared, uncaring, and a bully. I don't know anyone who would disagree with that assessment of your character." So now we are hopeful as we start to plan for the end of this pandemic and the eventual return to normalcy. I am confident in the leadership of this board as we move forward. The past 2 years will soon be a distant memory. We can now move forward unimpeded to serve the students and the community of the Antelope Valley as they deserve to be served. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scheid. From CSEA, we have Karen White. Ms. White.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So good afternoon. And that does sound nice, doesn't it? Good afternoon. So good afternoon, Board President, Mrs. McGrady, fellow board members, student board member, Mr. Johnson, Dr. Vieira, board cabinet, Mr. Furno, and Mrs. Orozco. Well, here we are at the end of our first month in January and in 2021, one that has broken a lot of records with COVID-19 and challenges that we're going to be conquering as we move through this year. I would like to extend CSEA's deepest sympathies to the family of Ishmael Bosuto, who taught at Little Rock High School and was highly regarded by his students and our staff. He will be missed, but he will never be forgotten. I would also like to extend my thanks to the district office staff as they work behind the curtain, and we know that they get things magically done, but we know it's not because of a computer but that's doing the work, but it's because of each of you. And we rarely see you nowadays, but we know you're there for us, and we thank you. I really appreciated Mrs. Myrna Jackson's comment and commitment to us in business services. She worked hard for us with a glitch in our November pay warrants. And understanding the snail pace for the U.S. mail deliveries in December, she and other associates accommodated the distribution of our pay warrants to be dispersed to our members at the district office on December the 30th. So with a scheduled appointment, she made it possible for our members to receive their checks without having to hope they'd arrive in their mailboxes at home. And we have send out a big thank you and are grateful to you for extending those type of endeavors to us. Last Friday, because of the generous invitation from the district, I was afforded the opportunity to attend the governor's proposed budget review, which the School Services of California Incorporated put on. I want to thank you for giving me that ability. I know, as did others, a great deal of information was reviewed in the 3-hour meeting. They gave us an overview of where we've been, where we're at, what's ahead, and what possibilities we may have, but are still uncertain. CSEA and I appreciate the inclusion and the sharing of such documentation and information. And thank you, Mr. Hawkins, for your updated budget review this evening. That was great. And as you said, we still have some iffy things out there, but we hope that they're going to be positive for us. We've had a busy year. We've had another busy year ahead of us and lots to plan for when we'll be able to enjoy those simple things in life that have been impacted by COVID-19. But of all things, I want to thank you, what we call our district, for your support, your concern, and endeavors to keep us safe as possible. for staying on top of the things that deal with possible exposures, positive results, being able to work remotely, and trying to balance everything in between. You have provided a different kind of support, and we recognize your long hours to make things run smoothly. So CSEA and I hope that you and your families will stay in good health. Please stay safe and be careful. And until our next meeting, I thank you.
Thank you very much. We move forward to G, public comments from the floor for agendized items. I believe we have some this evening.
We do. We have two public comments for agendized. The first is from Betsy McKinstry, Director of Career Technical Education. February is Career Technical Education Month, and tonight the resolution for the board to recognize it as such is on the agenda. The district's robust CTE academies and pathways are a result of the hard work and effort of the district CTE teachers and staff who have the support of their school site administration to implement, expand, and enhance their CTE programs. It also cannot happen without the knowledge and guidance from all district office divisions and CTE administration team of Ms. Diane Walker and Mr. Dwayne Robertson. In addition, the leadership and vision of Mr. Greg Meehan and Dr. Vieira have created the environment for district CTE programs to flourish with the goal to prepare students to be both college and career ready. Approximately 40% of ABUHSD students take a minimum of one CTE class, with over 38% of CTE students enrolled in the academy cohorts. Despite the impact of COVID-19 on learning environments with the shift of teaching application to online instruction, the programs had many firsts and highlights. Some of those include starting a new education and social service academy at EHS, continuing the work of the TV and Film Academy at QHHS, expanding the STEM pathways and academies to address the regional workforce needs, offering a summer math course for incoming academy freshmen that was taught by engineering and math teachers virtually. Students and teachers from EHS and LNHS presenting to over 100 teachers and administrators at the Link Learning Conference. Students competing in the Lockheed programming competition and placing in the top 3. Students in FFA, Skills USA, and HOSA career technical student organizations participating in events and leadership training virtually. Securing additional CTE funding through the K-12 Strong Workforce Grant, Perkins, and Career Technical Incentive Grant. Recognizing industry partners in a virtual celebration and conducting our industry advisory meetings virtually to seek input into the skills, knowledge, and abilities students need to have in the current and emerging workplace. Expansion of the senior defense portfolio and graduate student portfolio work. This is only a small sample of what CTE has accomplished. The creativity and mindset to move CTE courses that focus on teaching content through application in a face-to-face classroom to a virtual setting and maintain a high level of student engagement
30 seconds.
has ultimately prepared the future generation of workers. During CTE month, the district CTE staff will present elements of the CTE programs for you to access virtually. I want to extend the invitation for you to attend any of these sessions that focus on our students, teachers, and industry partners. Again, thank you for your continued support and guidance as we continue to build upon these programs so that all ABUHSD students for the opportunity to be prepared for both college and career. The next comment is from Vivian, the real Slim Shady. God bless United States of America and this insurrection ABUHSD meeting that the white supremacists of this district allowed to be conducted on such a historical day in all of America history. Shame on yourselves, Grady, Wynn, Perel, Rush, Superintendent Vieira, and sorry to say, Eli Johnson, and all the cronies like your outgoing KKK leader, Trump, that you should know better. I must rush my comment because of the newly corrupt members and their agendas. Stay strong, and as always, Dr. Ruffin, even by yourself, the truth will set up free. How do I know? At 3:52 p.m. and 4:07 p.m. Eastern Time, our beloved President Biden and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris walked into the White House that slaves built. Baby Bay Bay, that stands for the awesome, but today it stands for hallelujah. So Superintendent, make it right. The affirmation of February designated as Afro-American History Month for equity and transparency for all races of students. Dr. Vieira Infernal and all the board except Dr. Ruffin give a heartfelt apology to Miss Rachel Orozco, who had to endure the two imposters, most likely wearing white hooded sheets pretending to be me, lying on Dr. Ruffin, who would never or ever help me write my comments. Hell, I make too many typos, but apologize to Miss Orozco, who is so professional, because if you recall, you as a professional know I had to reach out to you for the right agenda number to let me say this out loud and clear. I would never get my nose browner than Anthony Hunt, who don't even know his own race. No surprise to educated folks, especially Black folks, that when came back, it was a done deal. Who cares? So Fernal, do an investigation. Start with James Stockdale, who may have assisted with the two imposters that possibly Rush helped to make the comments as he did with them folks against Perel. It's made this board a mockery and a hypocrite, and Perel, if you did wrong, own it. You all on the board, except Dr. Ruffin, sound like you're all on conference calls or texting to ask Fernal to complete your questions. It's now 3:51 p.m. I can't complete half of what I wanted to say, but you know what I don't have to, because look at what God has done on this historical, wonderful day. A woman of color with her loving white husband again walked into the White House, slaves built. Thank God. That concludes the agendized comments this evening.
Thank you. We'll move forward to public comments from the floor for non-agendized items.
The first comment tonight is from Monica Dobson. Good evening, board, Dr. Vieira, and cabinet members. Tonight, I want to address the member from Area 5. For the last 2 years, this valley has had to sit back and watch as you and former member from Area 3 and current member from Area 4 have held this district hostage with your constant attack on proven programs, attack on staff members from both the district and school sites, and constant attempts to approve contracts for family and friends. At the last meeting, you, along with your colleague from Area 4, rejected a contract for Cafe Con Leche for the second time. You say it's a contract of quid pro quo. I don't think that means what you think it means. Sounds like a line out of Princess Bride, right? Well, no, out of your mouth. I will have to say someone does benefit from this partnership or contract. The Spanish-speaking citizens of the Antelope Valley, you know, the large amount of constituents that you took an oath to serve. At some point, I truly hope you are going to step aside and allow someone who actually cares about the students of this district to make decisions in their best interest. Your constant desire to attack everything this valley has tried to positively build is only proof that you're not here to do what's right. It's to enact revenge for some reason unbeknownst to everyone else. Resign, please. Thank you. The next comment is from Baron Gardner. Sent to district stakeholders on Monday, January 11th. As members of our academic community, we are saddened and disturbed by the attack on our democracy by insurgents at the Capitol on Wednesday, January 6, 2021. For generations, this nation has seen the peaceful transfer of power, a cornerstone of our ability to uphold the values of our Constitution. While it is sadistic of the American people have the right to free speech and free assembly, the use of violence upon the people's house in an attempt to disrupt our nation's free and fair election lays bare that our efforts to build a more perfect union must continue. It is our duty as leaders and educators to assure our community that we as a district condemn the violence that we all witness and reaffirm our commitment to the protection of the democratic values and norms. As all of us grapple with the images we witnessed on January 6, 2021, there can be no mistake. We must not be divided on the truth about these events. This was an assault on democracy and an act of heinous violence propagated by those who favor fascist and authoritarian regimes. The time for denial of this fact has long passed. Our students watch on televisions, iPads, computers, and phones as men and women, many wearing neo-Nazi and white supremacist regalia, battered down the doors of the Capitol building with crowbars, ravaged through the offices of our elected officials, and called for the death of our vice president. The district has a duty to make clear to its employees, students, parents, and the wider community that in no uncertain terms it condemns these acts and recognizes what a failure to speak out would mean for the well-being of the children it serves. The time for equivocation is over. These acts were an attempt to disenfranchise our nation's voters and deny the safety and integrity of our electoral process. We as a district must do as senators like Mitt Romney, Pat Toomey, Cory Booker, and Kirsten Sinema have done and proclaim the truth about these events. For those of you who balk, we ask you this: how can one of our civics teachers encourage our students, particularly those of color, to register to vote or to take an active role as burgeoning activists and leaders in their community if the institution which instructs them remains silent on an attempted insurrection rooted in misinformation and aggressive ideas? How can a pilot project like the Equity
30
Committee,
seconds.
ABHS, ever hope to affect real change if our district refuses to recognize how the rhetoric and violence of these rioters is based in century-long efforts to disenfranchise voters of color? On the eve of Martin Luther King's birthday and the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it is our hope that our leaders stand with us against violence and hatred. We ask our leaders to work with us to confront these events head on, to recognize how a failure to speak, to act, renders our district complicit in the failing our students. Our district
Time.
leaders must.
I vote that we continue to hear the comments. Dr. Ruffin.
Could we have a consensus of the board? Board, how do you, what are your thoughts?
I agree. You should listen to the rest of the conversation.
Okay, so that's two. Do I hear someone else?
Yes, from Danita.
Yes. Okay, and I do. So okay, so let's move on. Yep, keep going.
Our district leaders must act boldly and issue a public condemnation of the events on January 6th. Your students and community are owed a correct identification of this attack as an assault on our democracy and our democratic way of life. We must be proactive in creating faith for our students, especially those of color in our institution. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, sooner or later, all the people of the world will have to discover a way to live together in peace and thereby transform this pending cosmic elegy into a creative psalm of brotherhood. If this is to be achieved, man must evolve for all human conflict, a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Respectfully submitted. Mateo Austin, Sophia Banks, Carl Bledsoe, Marla Bolton, Ricky Bullard, Clarice Cannon, Diane Carroll, Derek Carver, Beth Contayo, Zariah Chara, Anthony Coleman, Keisha Como, James Ford, Barbara Frazier, Elisa Frias, Mary Elena Fuentes, Baron Gardner, Valerie George, Jamie Goudreau, Judy Harrison Gordon, Takeko Hankins, Amy Hinton, Shavella Hutchinson, Ben Jefferson, Stacy Jefferson, Gloria Kastner, Chrissy Kelly, Stella Konisek, Laura Kopitz, Jennifer Krause, Sarah Kruger, Joseph Lamont, Jermaine Lewis, Raylene Lewis, Timothy Lexon, Michelle Lindsay, Alma Delano, Ada Martinez, Gavin McElroy, Jennifer McElroy, Mark Nichols, Jeff Patterson, Brett Pape, Anastasia Barron Rivera, Neil Small, Joshua J. Speaks, Nancy C. Speaks, Tennille Shroy, Timothy Taylor, Kazim Tahaji, James Tilton, Katie Trejo, Sergeant Major Willie Ward III, Amos P. Wellington, Denise Wilkins, Jeff Williams, Ron M. Wilson, Lieutenant Aaron Womack. The next comment is from Amos Wellington. What does it mean to defund the police? What does it mean to abolish the police department? How will we investigate crimes without police? Who will answer 911 if we defund or abolish the police? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Congratulations to our newly elected board. With that said, let's get to work. Our contract with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department ended effectively June 30th of 2020. At this moment, we do not have a contract with LASD, and this gives us great opportunity to effectively measure, evaluate, validate, and eliminate our connection with the LASD on our campuses. There has been video after video of school safety officer, security officer around the nation abusing children, almost always non-white. Our consideration on this matter is vital. This is not a small passing conversation that will just go away. This conversation has been a long time coming. I move that we put together a committee of community members, faculty, staff, security, and the LASD to measure the effectiveness of our partnership on a daily basis on our campuses before we sign another contract. A short time ago in our nation's history, Southern states were integrated at the directive of the White House and the President of the United States. Frontline battles for the first steps of integration were schools. I see Ruby Bridges being walked into a school by 4 federal marshals to break the color barrier in Louisiana 60 years and 1 month ago, November 14th, 1960. Ruby Bridges is 66 years old and very much alive today. There are many layers to this discussion, including disproportionality and discipline. When should arrest be made versus counseling? We have a $1 million plus contract with LASD. Could some or all of that money be put to better use on our campuses? It is reasonable to consider that we hire more counselors or contract with mentoring groups that will facilitate more brotherhood, love, sense of community on our campuses. I'm not advocating for reckless decision-making that could endanger students, staff, or visitors to our campuses. I am without question saying that we need to move deliberately and cerebrally as it relates to the police presence on our campuses. Thank you. Sincerely, Amos P. Wellington. I represent the 2%. The next comment is from James Tilton. I want to express my appreciation to the district and educators who put into place the 3-week grade improvement option at the end of last semester for our freshmen and sophomores. I especially appreciated that this opportunity occurred directly after the semester and was only available for classes in which the student was currently enrolled. For those reasons, that program functioned as a continuation of the semester, essentially giving students 3 extra weeks to improve their grade to passing. In the past, many students have viewed our traditional summer school offerings as an easy alternative to regular class, which means that they might not always give their best effort or make significant learning advancements during the school year. I think we can rectify that problem by applying the same approach to summer school that was so effectively applied over winter break. By effectively adding an optional 3 weeks to the end of the second semester and making students sign up for those classes that they'd failed the weeks before, we could give our students a second chance while promoting good academic habits. I believe such an approach would be better for our students than the current summer school model, and I hope you'll consider it for the future. Thank you for your time. The next comment is from Stacy Haight. Last meeting, you said you came to serve, but you haven't. You have failed at serving the students of the district. You have only served to empower this community against you and your empty rhetoric. You talk about your 23 years invested in social justice and serving students. You have done nothing in this regard in ABUHSD, and apparently the Oxnard district felt the same way. They saw through the meaningless words that you burdened listeners with and let you go. At the last meeting, you said you would serve for free. Why haven't served here for free? For over a year, you failed to fulfill your board duties over a bogus claim of a hostile work environment, which suddenly went away when you could not block matters as a part of a split board. Magically, the hostility that you feared is gone, and you find yourself attending closed session. You should be a person of your word and give back the money you didn't earn when you walked out of meetings and refused to be in closed session. Reality is you should resign your position because you have failed the 10,000 voters who were tricked into voting for you so you could carry out vendettas against people who don't bow down to you. Resign tonight. The last comment this evening is from Marla Stringer. Member from Area 5, every meeting you complain about mistreatment. Who discriminated against you? Why haven't you addressed it properly? You are a psychologist by trade. Why do you come to a meeting month after month to complain about how you weren't well received when you got on the board? You have repeatedly expressed your misery, but have you taken a look at how you've acted towards others? Have you examined your voting record? Have you listened to yourself pout and vote no on issues because you didn't prepare for the meeting? It's been over 2 years since you were elected. Why haven't you sat down with the superintendent to review the board agenda like every other board member? Why haven't you met with Dr. Vieira or Mr. Neal and addressed the hurt feelings you have because you got the same onboarding which includes a drug test? Get over yourself, Dr. Ruffin. You have no idea whether any other board member was asked to take a drug test, so stop making statements that make you look like a victim. You created the circumstances that you find yourself in. You were not elected to whine about your personal issues every meeting. I don't think anyone would be upset if you left because you have not helped the district. It's okay to resign. That concludes public comments for this evening.
Thank you very much. We always thank our listeners for writing in your comments. It's always good to hear what you're thinking. We're moving forward to number 5. We are at educational services. These are all first reads, A through G. I believe we want to, it has been indicated to me to pull E, the educational services on E. We will not be taking a look at that when we're going to look at it at another meeting. So we could do all of these together if you are in agreement with that. There is no vote on that. It's simply saying they are first reads and they're for first reads and discussions. So what I would like to do is ask if anyone has a question about any of these items.
Mrs. McGrady, this is Dr. Ruffin. You're saying that you're making a change to the board agenda?
I have been asked to pull E from the board agenda for tonight. They want to look at some of the wording and bring it back to us at another meeting.
Who asked that?
A cabinet member.
Okay, because there was a time before when I asked for an item to be changed at the beginning of the meeting and it was not something that could be done. So I'm not sure how one board member is allowed to do that action.
It's not being changed. We're there. It's going to come back to us next meeting as a first read.
And is that something that the board needs to vote on for that to come back as a read?
We can do that. Make a motion.
I'm asking a question because I always come prepared.
We absolutely can do that. So I would need a motion to remove E from this agenda and bring it back at another meeting. Could I have a motion to get that on the floor?
Motion.
Thank you. I need a second. I will second it. So do we have any discussion?
Who was the cabinet member that had a problem with E to take it off?
Dr. Ruffin, this is Greg Nian, and there's some superfluous language in there. So we'd like to take it, do some additional research on it, and then bring it back at a subsequent meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions about it? Okay, we'll go for the vote. Mr. Johnson, now we are voting to pull that from the agenda, bring it back at our next meeting. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's see, let me get the right order. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Okay, and Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Mr. Rush? Oh, excuse me, yes. So that was aye, yes. Mr. Rush? Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye, and Ms. McGrady, yes. So that passes, so we will pull it out. So the other ones from A through G minus E are first reads. So I would ask again, are there any questions or do we have any discussion about any one of these individually?
I have some questions about the reviewed board provisions for 6154 homework makeup work.
Okay, and that one is, let me see which one that is.
That one's C, Ms. McGrady.
That is C. All right, Mr. Johnson, what are your questions?
So I'm reading this and it says, students shall receive credit for work that is completed late. Who is determining this credit, and do we have is there a deadline? Is there a cutoff date for that? Can it be turned in the next semester? Can it be turned in? What does that look like?
Well, Mr. Johnson, this is in specifically in relation to AB 982, and the policy update references students who've been suspended. So this is the in the past, students who were suspended were not entitled to homework that they would have missed or any other assignments that they would have missed. This changes that, and it allows for now the parent or student to request, and the teacher must accept, and they can accept that work late. And the
All right.
subjectivity of late is, I think that's a finesse term.
Thank you. I have one more thing for under the makeup work section. It was changed from excused absence to just absence. What was the reason for that?
I don't know the reason other than this comports with AB 982, which is some new legislation. We used to have excused or verified and then unverified absences. And with the unverified, student, just like suspension, student was not entitled to makeup. So this may remove that lack of clarity, and any absent students entitled to turn in their work late.
So is this only, so this is under the umbrella of suspension. This is not in general.
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Nan.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Ms. McGrady, I have a comment.
Sure.
My comment is on 5A, Educational Services, Board Policy 0440, District Technology Plan. In the revised edition of this particular board policy, it says that the superintendent or designee may appoint an advisory committee consisting of a variety of staff and community stakeholders. In the previous policy, it included students. I'd like to have the revised policy include students as well, in particular, the student board member or his or her designee.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nehan. That's your area as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am, and that's something that we can take a look at and just make sure that the addition of students doesn't conflict with any of the ed code language. And if there's no conflict, we could add in students under community members, or we could add in a specific term of students.
Thank you, Mr. Nehan.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, we will move on to number 6, student services. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve non-public, non-sectarian school services master contract STS 21040 with Judge Rodenberg Educational Center, Inc. and Associated Individual Services Agreement for a non-public school placement as needed during the 2020-21 school year. May I have a motion?
I move.
That's Ms. Nguyen.
Second.
And a second? Mr. Rush, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Yes.
Yes. And Ms. McGrady? Yes. That passes 5-0 with the student board member voting yes. B is the memorandum of understanding. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve a memorandum of understanding STS 21052 with Information and Referral Federation of Los Angeles DBA 211 LA. May I have a motion?
Motion.
I
Okay.
so move.
Mr. Rush, a second?
I second.
Okay, that was Ms. Nguyen. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
No.
No. Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady? Aye. That passes 4-1 with the student board member voting yes. We are at C, a non-public school master contract. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve non-public, non-sectarian school services master contract STS 21057 with Vista School, Vista Del Mar Child and Family Services, and associated individual service agreements for non-public school placements as needed during the 2021 school year. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, I believe that was Ms. Perrell, and was it Ms. Nguyen?
Dr. Ruffin, I can second it.
Dr. Ruffin, thank you. All right, that's the first and second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Mrs. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady, yes. So that passes 5-0 with the student board member voting yes. We are at 7, business services. This is it is recommended that the Board of Trustees open, conduct, and close a public hearing of resolution number 2020-21-11. It is 6 o'clock to open the hearing time. Comments from staff?
Good evening. We're bringing this item back. We initially had it in September. This is for the district to adopt the resolution that will allow it to charge the legal amount of level 2 developer fees. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, we don't have comments from the public, so we will close the public hearing at 6:01 and move on to B, the adoption of resolution. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution number 2020-21-11 as presented. May I have a motion?
Motion.
That was Ms. Perrell, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Ruffin. Any discussion? Mr. Hawkins, do you have any idea of how much revenue we have lost since September by not adopting that when it came forward the first time?
Yes, we have since September 10th was the board meeting. And since we did not adopt level 2 fees that we are entitled to by legislative action and according to the study that was performed on our behalf, from that point, starting the next day, September 11th, through today, the district has not received $799,611. That represents $1.39 per square foot of residential property that permits have been pulled in our area that we were not able to charge the appropriate fee on. Now that charge, or those fees, basically $800,000 has been lost to the district for the benefit of our future students. When we do need to build additional classrooms or an additional school using bond money, that's $800,000 more bond that we will have to, more bond money that we will have to use, thereby causing additional property taxes for the $800,000 plus the interest for all property holders in our district area. So it's a significant loss of revenue for today and tomorrow.
Is there any possible way that we can recoup that?
No, that a builder or developer pulls a permit to build a house, he pays the fees up front, it's done unless they make changes to the size of the house as they're constructing it. But since roughly September, we've had 197 home permits pulled and 1 permit for a 100-unit apartment complex.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Ms. McGrady, I know that there was a question about discussion. I want to remind the community that I think it was a few months ago, there was discussion about opportunities for the board members to speak with our auditor. I had requested to speak with our auditor, had asked Dr. Vieira. I was sent email correspondence, going back and forth at different occasions, that if I had reached out to the auditor at one point that I would be personally charged for reaching out. And then later I had asked, had previous board members been allowed in the past to speak with the auditor? I had never been given that response. Then later I was told that I was able to meet with the auditor, and it ended up being such that there was a rabbit hole type of experience with trying to actually sit down and arrange that meeting. I'm not sure what all of the roadblocks were, but my opportunity never came to fruition. That has been my hesitation to vote on issues of our budget because of the roadblocks with the transparency of giving the board, me as a board member, an opportunity to have full transparency on these issues. And this information is for the constituents to understand the rationale behind the decision-making when I am looking at the depth, scope, and breadth of the decisions regarding the board and our community. And what does that mean for our students and our financial well-being when I'm making solid decisions? Thank you.
First, I'm not sure the two things have anything to do with each other, but the auditor, not only were you given his information, you were given his private phone number. When I met with him, I asked him to reach out to you, and he did, and he left you a message. You did not return that call. I'm not sure what else we could do. We gave you the number to call him. You chose not to. We asked him to call you, and he did. But even so, talking with the auditor doesn't affect this. This is developer fees that we are legally entitled to.
Thank you so much, Ms. McGrady. And out of respect, I'm gonna say this. Please do not speak for me. I know the correspondence that I got from Dr. Vieira. You do not have the authority to speak on my behalf. I have never received a call from the auditor. So I would like for you not to try to speak for me.
From 9 a.m. to 12 p.m.
And I know the message that I received from you that told me that if I reached out to the auditor, that I will personally be charged as a board member. And like I have said before, to any district attorney, to any grand jury, to any public member of the community who wants that correspondence, because it is public record, they can ask it from me and I will provide that information to them. It will have a chain of events timestamped of what correspondence took place. I have no reason to not be honest about that. So this is what I am expressing. I do not need you to speak on my behalf. And thank you. I'm just putting that out there to the public for me. I don't need you to co-sign for me. I'm speaking for myself. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call for the vote. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Perrell, aye. Ms. Perrell, how do you vote?
No.
No. Dr. Ruffin, how do you vote?
No.
No. Mr. Rush, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady votes yes. So this passes 3-2 with a student board member voting yes. We move on to C, the approval of annual and 5-year developer fee reports. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approves the 2019-2020 annual and 2015 to 2025 year developer fee reports. May I have a motion, please?
I move.
Second, Dr. Ruffin.
Okay, Ms. Nguyen and Dr. Ruffin, any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Dr. Ruffin?
No.
No. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady, yes. So that is 4 yeses, 1 no. It passes, and the student board member votes yes. We are at D, an authorization to piggyback on a bid awarded by the Reconvened Union School District. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees make a finding that it is in the best interest of the district to utilize a contract executed by another public entity in California for the purchase of school and office furniture, partitions, workspaces, and accessories. It is further recommended that the Board of Trustees authorize the district to use the piggyback bid of the Arvin Union School District contract number 2018-19-001 that is valid through November 12th, 2021 to Sierra School Supply for the acquisition of school furnishings, office furniture, partitions, workspaces, and accessories. It is further recommended that the Board of Trustees authorize the Assistant Superintendent of Business, Brian Hawkins, to sign all related documents as needed. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, I'm not quite sure. That was Ms. Perrell, I believe, and the
Yeah.
second?
Second.
I second.
Oh, Mr. Rush, okay, any discussion?
Ms. McGrady, I was just trying to remember, how long ago was it that the district purchased that building?
Oh, let me think a minute. Mr. Hawkins, can you help us with that? I'm not quite sure when it's been about a year.
No, we purchased that at least 2 years ago. It might even be closer to 2.5. I'd have to look it up to verify, but it's at least 2.5 years.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
And just this will allow us to be able to move into the new building. We have to get furniture for us to be able to do that.
This will be, yes, this is the first of several items we'll bring to the board regarding the Halston project. This is the first, and this allows us to order furniture at the best possible pricing we can get using an existing piggyback bid. And because it has, some of the furniture may have a longer lead time, this allows us to have the furniture arrive and be installed at the same time a general contractor has completed the project on the interior.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
No.
No. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady, yes. So that passes 4-1 with the student board member voting yes. We are at administrative services, action items, and 8. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution number 2020-21-17 as presented. This is for Career and Technical Education Month, February 2021. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Ms. Perrell, a second?
Second.
Mr. Rush, thank you. Do we have any discussion? I'd just like to say I'm proud of our career and technical areas, and I'm happy that we're going to have a month in honoring you. Any other comments?
Yes, Ms. McGrady, this is Danita Nguyen. I am excited about seeing the programs that have developed in the 5 years that I've been gone, and I completely agree that this is a wonderful thing. Betsy McKinstry and Diane Walker and Mr. Robertson have done an excellent job in helping our students prepare themselves for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady, yes. That passes 5-0 with student board member voting yes. Our next one, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution 2020-21-18, affirmation of February as African American History Month as presented. May I have a motion?
Motion.
That was Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
And a second? I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Rush, any discussion?
Yes. I think
Thank
that this is absolutely amazing for the Antelope Valley Union High School District to adopt this resolution for February as African American History Month. I stand totally in agreement with Mr. Gartner and the comments that they made to the board. I'm definitely in support of this resolution, considering the climate of our nation this summer with the George Floyd issues that we had, especially within our own community with the rubble dismantling at Quartz Hills High School. I think that that was a step in the right direction and something that really needed to happen far too long. 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to visit Mr. Johnson's class at Knight High School, and it was one of the most amazing opportunities to see a teacher teach on a history lesson about civil rights. He did an amazing job. I know that our teachers are trying in our school district, and I know that it's not universal to teach about 1619 education. I know the experiences that I experience in this district, whether or not somebody has to walk in my shoes, that's not for them to experience. It's my experience, and it's an experience of other African-American people and other Black people in this school district. And I am very hopeful that what we experienced yesterday, celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. and his dream, that one day it might actually be realized and actualized in this district, so that the things that I am experiencing here, that I won't have to be the first African-American on this board. So I'm happy that we are embracing this African-American History Month, but I hope that this won't be the last thing for us embracing the African-American History Month. I hope that we can embrace Asian American History Month and other things of this nature. So I proudly embrace this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Ms. McGrady, it's Danita Wynn again.
Yes.
February, well, the weeks leading up to February were always exciting because I knew that February was going to have several celebrations, and African American History Month was one of them. I am so happy and so proud to be able to sign my name as clerk on these resolutions, and I want to thank you. In the past, we always would read the resolution. Sometimes that's kind of lengthy, but I hope that maybe next year or the next resolution we have, I hope that we can read them out loud, because there's so many, it just is thought-provoking, meaningful, and to me, it's always heartwarming. So that's just a small request from me.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Wynn?
Aye.
Aye, and Ms. McGrady is yes, so that passes 5-0 with the student board member voting yes. We are at C, adoption of board resolution number 2020-2119, National School Counseling Week. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt that resolution for School Counseling Week as presented. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, that was Ms. Perrell, and I'm not sure the other voice.
Dr. Ruffin, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Dr. Ruffin.
So go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I can't think of a better time to shout out my two favorite counselors in this district, Miss Shelley Ryan at Quartz Hill High School and Mr. Royster at Knight High School. I'm appreciative of everything they do.
Thank you. Dr. Ruffin?
The amazing counselors over at Knight High School, Jackie Pledger, had an opportunity to watch her grow up the ladder, see the hard work that she does. This is a wonderful opportunity to recognize them. I think that we don't recognize that the counselors are like the kitchen soup in our schools. They are the ones that are really looking at our A through G, making sure that they're talking with our students about the right classes that they're taking, You know, when I was reading through today our school achievement and our school plan, you know, you're looking at all the hard work and the investment that is going on in our schools and tracking our kids and trying to make sure that they're getting to the next level or that career path. It cannot be done without the work of our school counselors. So I wholeheartedly support this resolution for our counselors. Great work.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Oh, it's me, Danita Wynn again, and I have to comment on the School Counselor Month celebration. I'm so excited because a lot of the counselors that were here when I left the district in 2015 are still here. And I'm excited and anxious to see them and congratulate them and thank them for the wonderful work that they do. I have not found in any of my travels better counselor, mentor program than the Antelope Valley Union High School District. It's filled with wonderful people. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just add that I believe too that we have such outstanding counselors in our district. We're so fortunate to have you with us. And we thank you for all of the hard work that you do for our students. We know that it takes all of us, it takes all of you to run this school, and we appreciate so much all your hard work. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Okay, hearing nothing. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Wynn?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady? Aye. So that passes 5-0 with our student board member voting aye. We are at the consent agenda. The actions proposed for the consent agenda are items consistent with adopted policies and approved practices of the district and are deemed routine in nature. The board will be asked to approve all of the items in the consent agenda by a single vote unless any member of the board asks that an item be removed from the consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the items listed in the following consent agenda categories: education services, student services, personnel services, business services, and administrative services as presented. May I have a motion?
Motion.
That's Ms. Perrell, a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Ruffin. Any discussion or anything anyone wants to pull?
Yes. I would like to pull under business services 13C, 4 items, 210248, High Desert Broadcasting, 210294, 2102-501, 2102-281. All of those are for a vote. And then I would like to pull under direct payment schedule 120-2020, Lancaster School District, David Paul 2100176, David Paul 2100177.
Okay, and are those for discussion or separate votes?
Those are for discussion and a vote.
Okay, so you want to vote on those separate from the consent agenda?
Yeah, and then I also would like to pull 10I for discussion, the annual approval of school plans for student achievement.
Okay. All right, so we are pulling, it's a little complicated here. Let me see if I can try to organize it. For discussion is
10I for discussion.
10I, and the others are for vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and
Under
can you
business
give me the
services,
numbers and the
13.
letter of what those are again, one more time, for the vote?
Under business services, 13C,
13C,
210248,
210248,
2102 494,
494,
2102 501, 2102 281, David Paul, DP 2100176, David Paul, DP 2100177.
Okay. All right, and so these are for separate votes. So we could go to the discussion on the 10I. And so what I'm going to propose is that we vote on, have the discussion on 10I and vote on the consent agenda itself, having pulled out the ones that you want pulled out. And then we'll go back and discuss those and vote on each of those individually. Does anyone else have anything they want pulled?
Yes, Ms. McGrady, this is Danita Wynn. I would like to pull 13A, business services donation for comment only.
Okay.
And I also want to add, Mrs. McGrady, I'm not sure if I have to add it or if it's already established, but I just want to say it for the record that I did send to Mrs. Orozco for 14A and for 14B, I did send in my my attached board comments for the record to be added to the agenda.
Okay, that's noted. I do need to say one more time that when we vote on them, we're voting on the minutes as they are written. You are sending in an addendum to that.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I didn't know, the addendum. Dr. Vieira?
Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is it for the record that when I send it in to her that it's attached to this?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
The minutes are voted on separately, but this is an addendum that's added to that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. McGrady.
Yes. Okay, so if we have everyone, if we have all of them pulled that people need pulled, let's do the discussion ones first. Ms. Wynn, let's do your 13A donations.
Yes, this was something that I always did for 13 and a half years. Pulled out donations just simply to say thank you to those people in the community who are helping and donating and making, well, in this case, making it possible for students to get a little bit different and a little bit more out of their education. And I thank Lockheed Martin, and I thank Northrop Grumman.
Okay, thank you. Let's go next. The other one that is a discussion item is 10I, I believe. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes. So this is the annual approval for the school plans for student achievement.
That's correct.
Yes, I'm just turning to it. Hold on one second. So first I wanted to thank Mrs. Villa for her work. I see that she submitted this. And I think that it's very important to address the work that all of our schools are doing. I like reading the school plan for student achievement for the 13 schools that was submitted. I noticed some schools provided more information than others. Some of our schools have made great strides with getting out of comprehensive support and improvement, targeted support and improvement, and other additional targeted support and improvement. I noticed that every school spoke about our ELs. Some schools focused on our foster youth. others on African American students, some on suspensions, and others on communication with parents. The unifying message, if I could pull one, is that we have a lot of remediation, offering a lot of tutoring, and a lot of other services. Being in education for over 2 decades, I could not put my finger on what it is that we can do as the Antelope Valley Union High School District to shift us. I thought about the past 2 years, the pay increases that we've given our staff, how we've shifted our levels of support with our security. I'm thinking about what it is our gap in our achievement, and what do our students need to excel? Because the past 23 years, under our leadership that we currently have, these are some of the things that keeps me up at night. And this is the reason why I ran for this school board. One thing for sure is communication with our parents must improve. I would like to see this document to the board be presented to our parents in the form of a school report card. I would also like to see accountability with implicit bias training for our school staff, considering the history, like I had stated before, of the Rebels mascot that was just taken down the summer with the civil uprising, so that we can address that from get to the root of what's causing those concerns around our differences situated in culture and our shared spaces. And I would also like to see us talk about cross-district collaboration. We're a high school district, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. We have several feeder school districts that feed into us, and I did not read in any of our 13 school submissions anything about that cross-district collaboration. When I'm talking to parents who are telling me about 8 years of Spanish that their kids have had and how they get to us and they don't feel like they've gotten that. And I know we have amazing Spanish teachers, because my daughter took Spanish and she's at Spelman right now. And I know the kind of education that she got from her high school, and she went right around the corner. I know that we're doing a lot of things right, and we still have a lot of growth to do too. I would like for us to really think about how can we improve our parent communication. When I think about what we do as board members, it is our goal to look at the ways in which we shift the policy piece. How do we look at the policies, and how does those policies influence and better the lives of all of the students in this district? So we had someone that called in earlier, and they were talking about the reallocations of funding. And they spoke about the 2% and the Ruby Bridges. And how do we look at how we redistricting that money? I have been in education for 23 years, and guess what? Nobody can take that away from me. When I read things like Why Try, that's a program that I implemented years ago, and we're still doing that, and Read 180. And when I didn't see, even in our district, when you look at our district as a high school district, how many immigrants are we getting in our district, even though we have EL students here? Not all of our students in our district are immigrants just because they're Hispanic students. They're not, we don't have a school district full of immigrants. We do have a lot of Hispanic students. So I'm trying to see, how do we bridge this gap so that our students can be more successful? And that's the question for me. How do we find a way for more of our students to be successful? Because what I did notice is that a lot of our schools talked about our African-American students, and our African-American students are more of a minority than we are the majority. and there's no way we can be more of the problem. Today, we had an African American young lady who spoke and did a poem at the inauguration. And guess what? She has a disability, a speech and language impairment. That did not stop her. Somebody in her educational village found out what her gap was. And this 12th grader, who 30 miles from us, just down the freeway, her village was successful. And I know we have those same kind of teachers and educators here, right here in the Antelope Valley. So I would like to have our superintendent present a clear vision for student achievement, community inclusion, one where have a superintendent who's not afraid to meet with our parents to discuss the concerns for student achievement. This was an amazing opportunity to read through this. And I would like for, if we can, for this board to possibly consider having this document be a school report card. And that's my feedback. Thank you.
I'd like to call for the vote for the consent agenda, minus the ones that we're going to vote on in a few minutes. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Farrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
What are we voting on for the which part?
We're voting on the consent agenda.
Considering, and I too?
Say that again?
Including 10I as well?
We're voting on the consent agenda minus the ones that we are voting on individually that you ask us to vote on individually. So
Right.
This is the rest of it.
I'm just asking, is 10I included in there as well? Because 10I, we were just discussing that. Nobody else had any discussions about 10I?
No. So 10I is included in that.
Mr.
You ask it to be for discussion, so that's
Yeah,
why
but I didn't know if anybody else had any discussion on 10I.
Ms. McGrady, I would like to say something about 10I.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate, first of all the work that was put into this report. It's quite thick, and I know a lot of work has been put into it. It just barely exemplifies the work that everyone does in this district to help every student achieve. And I want to especially thank Mr. Nehan and Mr. Hawkins for answering my questions. Boy, there's a lot of new acronyms since I've been gone, and I'm racing to catch up, but thank you. And thank you especially to the teachers and the counselors, the mentors in our district who reach out to these students. Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Ruffin, we're back to you voting. How do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady is a yes. So the consent agenda passes 5-0 with Mr. Johnson voting yes, minus the ones that Dr. Ruffin has pulled. So let's next go to the two Lancaster School District. They end in 177 and 178, the numbers.
177 and 176.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, 177 and 178.
I have 176 and 177 cost of final billing, 166 and 176, unless I read it wrong.
We'll double check. The one I'm looking at is listed Lancaster School District 00177, and the following one is Lancaster School District 00178.
Let me look. You could be right, Ms. McGrady.
Oh, every once in a while. Be pure accident.
No, you are correct.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So what we need to do is since we're going to vote on this separately, I need to get a motion to discuss and vote those two items. So first, got to get a motion.
Motion.
That was Ms. Perrell, and a second was Dr. Ruffin.
Yes.
Okay. So now it is opened up for discussion, Dr. Ruffin.
So Who am I addressing my question to, first of all?
I couldn't quite hear that, sorry.
Who am I addressing this question to?
Mr.
answer
Hawkins
your
and Ms. Williams.
question.
Mr. Hawkins?
Okay, or Ms. Williams, I'm not sure.
Okay, the cost for the final billing, what are we billing the Lancaster School District for?
So Dr. Ruffin, Lancaster School District is our regional provider for all the districts within our SELPA for our orthopedic impairment, visual impairment, and orientation and mobility services. And so as part of the SELPA, we pool our resources and services, and various districts take lead on particular special ed services. And in this case, Lancaster School District provides these services for all of the SELPA districts. They're currently servicing 87 students within our district for those particular services.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other further questions or discussion? Okay,
No, great.
hearing none. Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
That was great. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush? Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady, aye. That passes 5-0 with the student board member voting yes. Okay, so let me try to see what would be next, Dr. Ruffin.
We can do 210248 and 21022281. They're both High Desert Broadcasting. And I don't know if the 210249 digital rebroadcasting is all together.
It's going to take us a minute to find them. Hang on just a second.
Dr. Ruffin, could I ask you to repeat those two numbers one more time, please?
Yes.
210248.
Okay.
210247.
So these are on the last page, and it's High Desert Broadcasting and Point Broadcasting.
Yeah, and then one of them is on the page 3 pages before. 21022281. Let me see, 21022284.
Okay, wait, hang on. Okay, the one you just
I'm
did.
sorry,
just
I'm going
before
back
that.
to it. 21022284.
Okay.
Radio, it says radio advertising. High Desert Broadcasting radio advertising.
Okay.
So that one specifically is advertising our adult education programs, and that reaches all of the Antelope Valley through the multiple stations that High Desert Broadcasting has. And I couldn't name them off the top of my head.
Okay, who's the company?
High Desert Broadcasting.
And we're paying them $22,000?
That's correct.
Why?
To get the word out about the programs that we offer for the citizenship, for the English language, for the high school diploma and proficiency, as well as all of the employability programs that we have.
We can't find another outlet to do that?
This is through local radio. So it's who has radio stations within the Antelope Valley. And we found that this particular demographic of adult ed candidate students, AM and FM radio is still a good way to reach them.
How do we do that research to figure it? Because when I added this up, we're spending $60,000 to reach who?
The students, potential students for our adult ed programs. And when we register students, we ask them, how did you hear about us? And it's through this, and then word of mouth is number 2. And just to clarify, Dr. Ruffin, these are paid through the Adult Ed Consortium, the Adult Ed Block Grant. So there is a requirement within that block grant to advertise our programs.
Oh, okay, this is paid through the Adult Ed Block Grant.
Correct.
How much is that total grant?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I'd have to get back to you with that.
This is for the digital, the digital broadcasting, the high desert broadcasting, and the high, all three of these. This is for 02284, 02497, and 02281.
The other two, the last two you mentioned, that one of those is radio advertisements for our Antelope Valley Academies of the Antelope Valley, so our virtual program and our three prep programs. The other piece of that point broadcasting, that is community engagement through social media using what's known as digital fencing. So if you're in a particular geographic area, you get targeted messages, and those messages also extend to if you search things like middle school, if you search things like virtual education, then you'll receive a push of messages. And those are specifically through social media.
Okay, what's the radio station?
It's High Desert Broadcasting, so it's through a number, I believe they have 5 or 6 stations.
And have we used them before, or is this our first time?
No, we have used them before.
We have used them before.
Yes.
And is this centered toward a certain ethnic group?
No, these are all English language stations, and this is directed towards parents of potential students in our AAV programs.
So this is for English language learners?
No, this is for English radio stations.
Oh, English, just English only.
English language, yeah.
Oh, just English only. Okay.
Correct. And this is just you made the example of parent communication. This is an effort to reach out to our parents to express to them the programs that we offer.
So we did some kind of survey. We know that parents listen to. I've never in my life heard of this station, and I've lived here for 20 plus years. So I don't know how. I'm just trying to see how do we outsource and see who listens to what, or how would I get this word out to parents to tune into this station to let them know that this is where they can hear information about options for their students?
So High Desert Broadcasting is a collection of stations. So this is the company that essentially owns a number of stations that broadcast in the Antelope Valley. So what we play on there is commercials. We have 15, 20, and 30-second spots that just advertise our programs, let parents know what we have. If they're interested, this is how you can get a hold of us.
Oh, so it's a number of stations that this is okay, got it.
Yes, a number of different genres of music and talk radio.
Got it. Okay. And how long is this an annual contract, or is this a 2-year deal, or?
This is an annual. This is for a push beginning in the spring and then up through the middle of July, when we would register the majority of our incoming students.
Okay, and then we would have to go into another, it's a year long, and we would go into another contract with them.
Correct.
And so this is, let me just be clear, this is for 2102284, and it's for 2102281, and it also covers 2102497.
Let me look up 012281 real quick. I don't see that number as a, you said 2102281.
Yes, 2102281. It's on a whole different page.
What I see, that one is for 3-day blinds.
Okay, sorry, let me look and see. Hold on, let me see if I gave you the wrong number. 21 advertising. 21022. let me see. Okay, Ms. McGrady, I gave you the wrong number. 2102284. That's one.
Correct.
Two one zero two 497.
Okay, correct.
And then the last one is 2102498.
So those are the three that we discussed. One is for the adult education programs, and then the other one is a radio and then a digital advertising for the Academies of the Antelope Valley.
So point broadcasting is totally different from High Desert.
Correct.
Okay. And who is point broadcast? Is that a grant too?
No, but that does come out of our district authorized charter funds.
Point broadcasting. Okay. Okay, Ms. McGrady, are we able to vote on 1, 2, and 4 together? Are we able to vote on 2,
Yes.
1,
But
0?
I would love for us to do that. Let's put those three, the radio ads and the digital ad together and do that. And I just realized I'm not sure I did. I'm so sorry. I should have gotten a motion and all that ahead of time. We were trying to identify which ones they were. Okay, so we're going to try to vote on these three. Let's get a motion.
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
that's Ms. Perrell, second.
Dr. Evans, second.
Okay, and do we need further discussion or are you ready to vote? Okay, so for everyone else, we are voting on the 2 radio ads and the digital ads and off of the consent agenda. So Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady, yes. So that passes 5-0 with the student board member voting yes. And so because our numbers were a little bit wrong, I think that's all of them that you had. Is that correct?
One last one, 2102501, Fagan, Freeman, and Full Frost.
Okay. Before we start, let's get a motion. I need a motion.
Motion.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Perrell, and a second. I believe that was Dr. Ruffin.
Yes.
Thank you. And so now we'll open it up for discussion.
I know that we have a $400,000 open PO. Thank you, Dr. Vieira, for clarifying the total amount and that we don't have an invoice for the board. I appreciate you getting back to me before we had the board meeting with that question. I'm still bringing it. Thank you so much. I'm still bringing it up because I think that it's good for the board to, I would like for the board to lower the amount and give us an opportunity bi-monthly to bring back up the amount so that we can have more transparency on what's being spent and not have just such a huge amount out there and the board not know what transactions are being that are going on with an open PO. That's my suggestion for the board. I don't have a problem with Fagan, Freeman, and Full Frost doing the work. I'm just saying with the open PO and us not being aware of what activities are going on, that with the lower amount, it would trigger us being more aware of what's being spent. That's all I have for discussion.
Okay, 2 comments that I can think of immediately is we are spending more on attorneys right now for several reasons. One is because we no longer have in-house counsel. And the second one is we are in lawsuits. So we have more money going out for attorneys than we've ever had. Also, this is kind of what we've always done in the past. If you remember when Mr. Harris got his first one, it was for $50,000, but that was as we first brought him on. I believe a couple meetings later, we gave another firm $200,000, and the year before we'd given them used them for $25,000. So $400,000 is not necessarily out of order at all for attorneys for this size of an organization.
Yes, Ms. McGrady, thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I'm glad that you mentioned those numbers because they never were over 200,000. And that's my point, is to keep it where the board can manage and look at what those monies are being spent for. And that was my point, so that it comes back to the board so that we can be more present on the spending. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any
I'm
other?
not saying that we would not bring it back to add more as needed, but at least it will give us an opportunity to be more present and vigilant about what the spending is for accountability. That's all.
Any other discussion?
Ms. McGrady?
Yes.
Would it be possible to go ahead and bring this item up on the agenda for approval, but still on a monthly basis or maybe quarterly basis, as a board, be advised of the amount that's being spent?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I think we're already being advised that whenever we get an invoice. That's what we go through those invoices, and we're already advised of that information. Every month whenever we get an invoice, we're able to keep track. I guess we can start subtracting from 400 and figure out what it is.
Yes, we do. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, calling for the vote. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
No.
No. Dr. Ruffin?
No.
No. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady, yes. So that one passes 3-2 with the student board member voting yes. I believe that takes care of all the little extras that we had to pull out and vote on. So we will move on to from the board and superintendent. Let's start with Mr. Johnson. Do you have anything to say today? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll just say that I have immense gratitude for the opportunity to learn in such a difficult time. I'm grateful for the teachers. They're doing a great job. Our teachers in the district are incredible. It has been tough, but we're getting through it. Today I had a chance to attend our first ICC meeting of the semester. It was good to talk to kids to get some ideas of how they're handling this time, and I'm optimistic for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Perrell?
I don't have anything at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Ruffin.
Yes. Sorry, just finding my notes. Oh, what an amazing day to have our first board meeting on Inauguration Day. The day history was made, our 46th President of the United States of America, and the first Black Asian American woman Vice President was installed. Yes. Especially after an angry, violent mob surged an insurrection last week on Americans' democracy. Some, just like an earlier speaker who boldly threatened me for being here, pushing an opinion that differs from yours. One that, by the way, happens to mirror the mob from last Wednesday on January the 6th. And guess what? America stands against that mentality. We go forward as a nation, forging a more perfect union. And I believe we will do it here in the Antelope Valley and set an example of how to be better, as we, the people here, are a source of our local government. We are the reason why we exist. We are the reason why we are working to be better. And we must strive to be better than we have ever been to do better. There is hope for brighter days. And happy past Martin Luther King Day of Service Day yesterday, or was it 2 days ago, for all who celebrated it. Marian Wright Edelman said, service is the rent we pay for being. I want to dedicate a portion of my board comments to a former student from Highland High School and 2 coaches he adores and adored. He had a signing day at Highland where he signed a letter of intent to play football at my alma mater, UC Davis. Darius Debo Wilson was a Highland High School class of 20 graduate. He was a Golden League Defensive Player of the Year. He was an all CIF Southern section his senior year in all LA County. He recorded 96 tackles, 64 solo with 13 sacks, 44 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles with 2 fumble recoveries. He was so athletic, he played wide receiver on offense, something unheard of for a defensive end. On top of that, he was the captain of the football team his junior and senior years. He also was the starting power forward for the basketball team and averaged 7.9 PPGs and 5.8 RPGs and 1.3 BPG. He also ran track, competing in discus hurdles and the long jump. He finished second in the Golden League in track his junior year. After being virtually ignored by Division I college football scouts, Darius went to the Antelope Valley Community College to play football, even though he had numerous D2 and D3 offers. He wanted to fulfill his dream of playing Division I college football. He never gave up on his dream, and on December 16, 2020, Darius signed a letter of intent to play football for the University of California, Davis. He accomplished this despite having his ABC college football season canceled due to COVID-19 pandemic. His work ethic, discipline, attitude, talent, and cumulative 3.3 high school GPA earned him a scholarship. When asked which one of his many accomplishments he is most proud of, Darius said he is most proud of finishing with a high school GPA while starring in 3 sports over a 4-year period. He is an amazing example of a student athlete and is proud to call Palmdale his hometown. He is an excellent role model for up and coming student athletes. Darius credits God for giving him the talent, wisdom, and perseverance. His greatest influences are Coach Terrence Powell and Highland head football coach Richard Lair. Darius also was heavily influenced by the late great coach Lonnie Dawson as well. He credits Coach Dawson, who recently passed away, for convincing him to switch to the defensive end position in his freshman year and instilling greatness in him. Thank you to his family, extended family, and Highland High School Village that supported him for it. I want our staff to know that we are listening to them also. I want them to know that we hear about their safety. I am hopeful about our new Secretary of Education for the United States of America. And I'm also wanting to extend well wishes for the surge that is here in our community. We lost 2 LA Unified teachers just down the way, Erica Brown Atkinson and Nicholas Glover, to COVID-19. And I know that many in our community in the Antelope Valley are struggling as well. And I'm sending well wishes to them. I'm praying for our students, our community. I'm wishing you well, be safe, and be well. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Rush.
Yes, just a moment. I'd like to first thank everybody for their hard work again during all this trying time for both the students and the teachers and the administrators. Keep up the good work. Hopefully we'll get back to normal soon. I'd also like to congratulate Steve Radford, who was Adult Ed Area 15 Principal of the Year for obviously adult ed. Congratulations there. And that's it. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you. Ms. Nguyen.
Yes, I have a couple of things. First, I'd like to thank Mrs. Jefferson's class, her journalism class, for inviting me to speak with them. And they each had a question for me. And I have to say, I found that class to be intelligent and engaging and just simply a joy to speak with. So thank you very much for that. And I do have a couple of questions for Mr. Johnson. It was expressed to me by some students that they were having a hard time collecting community service hours. I'm not exactly sure what community service hours do. I mean, is that, Mr. Johnson, I hope you can help me with this. Has it been hard for them to collect them, and how necessary is this?
I went and did my research for you, Miss Wen. So today I spoke to my ICC class. I started looking around, talking to kids around the district. So there's a few reasons why you would need community service. You can put it in your, you can put it to get into college, and then there's also club requirements, among other things. In our district, from site to site, you need it in clubs like AVID, ASB, National Honor Society, ROTC, CSF, Key Club, the Health Careers Academy. And obviously right now, people are having hard times finding community service opportunities. There have almost every student I talked to had said that their club advisors had either waived the requirements in the COVID-19 times, or that they have lowered it. But these kids gave me all these different ideas for community service. Club advisors are saying that the club meetings count as service hours. Other kids said that they volunteered at animal shelters, blood drives, and a student from SOAR shared with the class a website called volunteermatch.com, where you can place your city, your zip code down, and it will tell you about different opportunities that you have. So even though it is hard to find those opportunities, there are still opportunities out there for the students. They're finding them. So in the concern, yes, there is concern with limited opportunities, but our district is handling it very well with club requirements, lowering the requirements, club advisors doing that, and then also the different opportunities, the unique opportunities that we have in this, that we have to volunteer.
Thank you. I'm going to keep my ears open and see if I hear or can find some opportunities for our students to fulfill their community service hours as well. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And I also have one other question. My husband was listening to CASA meeting this last Saturday, and I was, I'm sorry, I should probably, CASA is the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators. They had a meeting on Saturday. And I was impressed not only with the content of the meeting, but before the meeting started and during the breakout sessions and in between different programs, they played music at this Zoom meeting. And I thought it was actually such a nice thing to have done. I was wondering if maybe the board would consider in the future that our student board member maybe come up with some ideas for music, maybe while we're in closed session, maybe before the board meeting starts. I want to provide an atmosphere of calm and well, I shouldn't say that because I have one song in mind that isn't really a calm song, but anyway, I'd like to just get to the point where maybe we can have music help us heal. And to that end, I wanted to say that I check on my neighbors often to see how they're doing. And I checked on my next door neighbor who commented to me that she felt we lived in a country divided. Of course, she is right. But she said that what she's doing is praying for the healing of mind, body, and hearts. And I would like to announce that I join her in that prayer.
Good.
Okay, thank you. First, since Monday was, we honored Martin Luther King, I'd like to share a quote from Martin Luther King that I thought was appropriate. "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." I'd like to thank all of our teachers and staff for continuing to teach. We appreciate all of your work to engage our students. We know it's not always an easy task. We look forward to the time that we can come back to school and to come back for in-person learning. Today, we witness democracy in action. And this is what makes us the greatest nation in the world. I congratulate President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris on their inauguration today. I wish them the best, and I share the hope that we can come together as a nation for a unified country. We continue to face difficult times in our schools and our communities as this pandemic rages through our country. I hope we can work together as citizens who care about each other and about our communities. And I hope we will make good decisions that reflect that we are caring citizens for our schools, our country, and our world. Finally, as I listened to the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history, Amanda Gorman, speak today, I could not help but think that she is exactly why we are in education. She represents the high quality student that we want to help create. This is the type of future leader our country needs. Here is just one little piece of what she said. "There's always light if we're only brave enough to see it, if we're only brave enough to be it." Thank you. That's all I have. Dr. Vieira.
Thank you. I echo many of the sentiments that the board members mentioned tonight, but I'd also like to give a quick shout out to some of our students throughout the Antelope Valley. I don't know if some of you probably had the chance to see this past Sunday, students from across the AV in partnership with the City of Lancaster and under the direction of our own Antelope Valley High School, Mr. Nigel Hawley, celebrated Justice Sunday 2021. This year's event featured the play Eclectic, which was written by Antelope Valley Union High School District students. Throughout the play, actors from AV, Eastside, Pete Knight, Soar High School, Anaverde Hills, Bethel Christian, and Discovery Elementary School provided just an outstanding performance. So I just like, again, give a shout out and a congratulations to them, and wish everybody just the best in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. We have closed session, but for those of you who are leaving now, our next meeting is Wednesday, February 24th at 5 p.m. We thank you for attending. We urge you to be safe, and we will go on for the board. The board will consider and act on any of the closed session matters listed in agenda item 6. May I have a motion to go to a closed session?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Perrell, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Ruffin. And do we have any discussion?
Yes, discussion. Ms. McGrady, thank you so much for what you just said. I am very hopeful that your words are true. And I want to address this to our community and a comment that a person had made earlier. I want to ask again that I want to say this for the record. On October the 10th, 2019, I was sick, is the reason why I did not come to the board meeting. On January the 29th, 2020, our SRO in Oxnard Union High School District was killed, and I serviced my community. That is why I was not in attendance at that board meeting. I missed 2 board meetings. On February the 14th, 2020, I was out of town, and there was a mix-up of why I was not allowed to come to that meeting. That's for the record. I would like Mrs. McGrady, I am asking for the disrespect to stop. I have a right to represent the constituents and express an opinion, even if it differs from yours. I'm asking that the hostile verbal behaviors toward me stop, and that that they discontinue to be upheld by the extended power structures that are allowed in closed session. Furthermore, as a Black woman who has endured desperate treatment, because I know that I'm speaking up against unethical practices that I believe board members are doing, or that I believe that the district is doing. I know that I have been publicly marginalized. Even the display where our community members put a public billboard up of one of our board members. Just think about that. Me personally on this dais and while in closed session, I am requesting that this board, I am personally requesting that this board seek formal outside mediator from the district attorney's office to address this hostile work environment. And I'm just doing that for the record. When I say that I came to serve, this is what I believe that I am doing. Bernice King said in a tweet just the other day, "Please don't act like everyone loved my father. He was assassinated. In 1967, poll reflected that he was one of the most hated people in America, most hated. Many who quote him now evoke him to deter justice today would likely hate and may already hate the authentic king." So we know that there's differences of opinion. I don't want to be silenced in my ability to represent the students and the families of this community. I'm requesting what John Lewis and the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for, my right as a woman, as a person of color, to be in this space, shift policy for the betterment of these students. And I am willing to work with anybody who's willing to do that. I rest.
We were looking for discussion about going to closed session. Does anyone else have a comment? Then I'll call for the vote. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady, yes. So it passes 5-0 with the student board member voting yes. We will close out and reconvene in 5 minutes for closed session.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Checking to see if everyone's here.
Yes, I am.
I think so.
Looks like we are. All right, we are back from closed session. I'm going to read our action to be reported out closed session from a regular meeting from January 20th, 2021. Item B, during closed session, the board held a conference with labor negotiator, Mr. Brett Neal, regarding our certificated bargaining unit, classified bargaining unit, and unrepresented group, and the board took no action. Item C, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reassignment, non-reelect. During closed session, the board considered a public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reassignment, non-reelect, and the board took no action. Item D, during closed session, the board considered a request to waive healthful living for an Antelope Valley Union High School District student, and the board approved the request. There were 3, item D, E, and F, that were voted on at one time on a motion by Amanda Perrell, seconded by Dr. Victoria Ruffin. The vote was 5-0 in favor. So all 3 of those items passed. Item G, compromise and release agreement, STS 21-058, OAH case number 20201-00010. During closed session, the board considered compromise and release agreement, and the board approved agreement on a motion by Amanda Perrell, seconded by Dr. Victoria Ruffin. The board voted 5 in favor, so it passed. Item H, final settlement agreement and release of claims, STS 21-059, OAH case number 20201-00145. During closed session, the board considered the final settlement agreement and release of claims. The board approved the settlement on a motion by Amanda Perrell, seconded by Danita Wind. It was approved by 4 with 1 board member, Dr. Victoria Ruffin, who recused herself. We were item I, conference with legal counsel pending litigation, claim number 20-1214-001. During closed session, the board considered that claim to subdivision E3 of section 54956.9, and the board rejected the claim on a motion by Amanda Perrell and seconded by John Rush. The board voted 5 in favor to reject the claim. During closed session, the board considered claim number 201214001, a pending litigation pursuant to subdivision of section 54956.9, and the board rejected the application for leave to present a claim. On a motion by Amanda Perrell, seconded by John Rush, the vote was 5-0 to reject the claim. Item J, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, case number 20STCB32678. During closed session, the board considered that case of existing litigation pursuant to subdivision of section 54956.9, and the board gave direction. We would like to close our meeting tonight in the memory of Ishmael Basulto, who was hired as a teacher in 2019. He worked at Little Rock High School as an SDC teacher. And to quote Ms. Karen White from earlier in this evening, he will be missed, but will never be forgotten. Our thoughts and prayers, hearts and thoughts and prayers are with his family at this time. Finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Ms. Burrell, can you second? A second, Ms. Wynn, and any discussion? Oh, hearing none. Mr. Johnson is no longer here, I don't believe. How do you vote, Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye, Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye, Ms. McGrady is a yes. That passes 5-0. We are adjourned. Good night.
Have a good night, everybody.